Hey, welcome back to the Leverage Advantage show. And today we've got a very special guest. I'm extremely honored and grateful to have Daniel Gefen today with us. And he's the founder of Gefen Media Group. He's a podcaster and an author. In fact, he's got a book coming out very, very soon. So I want you guys to watch out for that. Now, I want to tell you guys a little bit about Daniel because it's a really awesome story reading about it. Now, he started out on a six-figure salary at the age of 23. Is that right, Daniel?
Yeah, that's right.
And then he went broke and he got evicted onto the streets with his family. Now, and then what he did is he started his business from scratch and he went broke again, you know. So Daniel's business story is extremely interesting and I'd love for him to tell it to you guys. Let's not, without further ado, I'd love to introduce to you guys Daniel. Daniel, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being on the show. It's funny because 23, so I just turned 34. So it's really like, it's been 11 years now. It's been a long journey. And it's actually when I got married. So I'm 23 years old. I met my wife from California. I'm originally from London, as you can tell from the accent. And so far now we've been married 11 years. We have 4 children. We live in Israel. And it's almost like a little hazy dream, if I think back to those times, because so much has changed since then. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I've come so far from where I was, and it's just kind of surreal when you talk about the 23-year-old who had a 6-figure salary and then went broke. I almost don't even remember who that was. I kind of, was that me? Interesting times. Yeah. So pretty much what happened was 2008 came around. So as you know, and everyone listening to this, 2008 wiped out a lot of people, including myself. And I ended up pretty much getting evicted onto the streets with my wife, and I had 1 child at the time. And it was just a really dark time for me because I was going to lose my wife and my child because I essentially gave up. I kind of gave up the will to keep going. And we were actually living in my in-laws. And after about 2 or 3 weeks of playing video games and my wife yelling at me, and I was just so embarrassed, I walked out. I literally walked out on my wife and my child. And I stayed at a friend's house for about a week. And after about a week, my friend said to me, he said, Daniel, I'm more than happy that you're staying by me and but if you don't go back and, sort this out, you're going to lose everything. You're going to lose your wife and child. And I don't want to see that happen. So I put my ego to one side and I picked up my courage and I went back to my wife and basically begged her to start over again. And thank God she accepted, and we moved to London. I got a job with my father working in a grocery store, which I absolutely hated. I mean, I hated every single minute of it. And for those watching or listening, if you're an entrepreneur, people always say, what's the definition of an entrepreneur? It's one of those buzzwords that people use. I don't like buzzwords, because they don't really define what it means. Influencer, expert, guru, entrepreneur. Like, what does that even mean? Everybody can call themselves an entrepreneur. My definition of entrepreneur is, if you are an entrepreneur, you can't work for anyone else. And when I say you can't work, I mean it's like someone taking you and putting you in a jail cell. That's how you feel. You feel trapped. You feel imprisoned. And every single minute that you're working for someone else, it feels like someone is suffocating you. And if you don't feel that, I would question whether you really are an entrepreneur or not. So after about a year of me drowning and suffocating, working for my dad, I quit. And I remember I went home and I said to my wife, I can't do this anymore. Like, seriously, I'm dying inside. And she said, I know, I see it. And she said to me, listen, I'm with you. I'm supportive of you. Whatever you do, I believe in you. Go start a business. And so I did. And to cut a long story short, I built up the company. Pretty much I outsourced everything in the company. So I was able to work on what I enjoy doing, because what I found is, interestingly, is that when I started my company, I thought that I was finally free. I felt freedom. But within a couple of months, I realized I was not free at all, because I became a slave to my business, right? I was the one that was having to hire and fire and micromanage staff. I was in the office till late, getting there early in the morning and barely making any money. I was chasing clients for payments. I was the sales guy, the receptionist, the accountant, the bookkeeper, the debt collector, everything. And it was like, I suddenly kind of realized, like, what am I doing? Like, I basically created a job for myself. I'm still a slave. And it was only when I outsourced everything and I only focused on the things that I'm good at and I excel at and I love doing, that's when my life changed.
Excellent, man. Hey, that it really reminds me of my own journey with with business as well. I think a lot of people don't understand, like, especially when you start a business. You call it, you start a business, and you're a one-man show. You're a solopreneur. You really don't have a business. You've just created yourself a job, right?
Mm.
And here's the thing that I found, and it's not an easy transition to go from being a solopreneur or being in a two entrepreneur partnership to building not just a business but a company, which is what we're currently building, is to take that mindset shift where you're actually trusting other people to do the things that that you were doing before, and and that's what's going to set you free. Being able to trust other people to do the things that you don't like to do, being able to trust other people to do things that you're really not great at, right? And so, and then focus on the things that you're great at, you're absolutely fantastic at, and that you love. And that's when I really started seeing the company and the business flourishing, right? And so I really resonate with your story. Tell me, man, like, what are you doing now? Who do you help? Who do you serve?
So, right, look, basically what happened was, as the business scaled up, I got to a point where I had this realization, and what I did was I fired all of my staff. I got rid of the office space, and I took my laptop, my phone, drove to a nearby hotel, and literally that was my office. The hotel lobby became my office for the next year. And I just scaled the business up because I spent my whole entire day just focusing on my strengths, and everything else was outsourced. So I wasn't having to do anything I didn't want to do and I wasn't good at. And then one day I was driving my car, and it was, again, we were living in London, so it rains most of the year, right? It's rainy, it's cold. And I said to myself, I could live wherever I want. The freedom that you get as a real entrepreneur is that you can basically be wherever you want, with whoever you want, and do whatever you want. To me, that's how you know you've made it as an entrepreneur. If you can literally be anywhere you want, with whoever you want, doing whatever you want, then you know you've made it. And so I realized, like, I could be wherever I want. Why am I living in a cold, rainy country? And so I went home and I said to my wife, hey, what do you think of moving to Israel? Right? Israel, it's the Middle East, it's hot, I'm Jewish. And she said, okay. So we had 3 kids at the time, picked up, and we literally went. And that was about 2.5 years ago. I've been living here now. It's beautiful. 10 months of the year we have summer, pretty much. So when I moved to Israel, I was pretty much semi-retired in a sense because I didn't have to work. But again, and this is another thing about an entrepreneur, right? So remember, the first thing I talked about as an entrepreneur is that you can't work for anyone. The second thing is you've made it as an entrepreneur when you can be wherever you want and do whatever you want with whoever you want. And the third thing is that as an entrepreneur, you always have to be producing. You can't just do nothing, right? We as entrepreneurs don't feel comfortable just chilling out the whole time. When I go on a vacation with my wife and kids, it's like 4 days max. Like, I'm done. After 4 days lying on the beach, it's like, okay, I need to go do something now. You know what I mean? So I was playing tennis. I was chilling out at the beach, and I started getting itchy. I need to go do something. And so that's when I launched my podcast show. And I launched my podcast show. It's been ranked top 26 business podcasts in 2017. I've interviewed billionaires, multimillionaires, Fortune 1000 CEOs. I've interviewed the smartest man alive, the leading FBI hostage negotiator. So it's been absolutely incredible. The contacts and the doors and the opportunities have just, completely flown open for me. And that's when I decided to start Gefen Media Group, because I realized that there are so many people out there that should be starting a podcast show. Like, they need to be going and starting a podcast show, because there is so many benefits of having your own show. And then at the same time, I was also writing my book, The Help Addict, which we can get into. And so it all kind of happened pretty much in a very short space of time, because here's the thing. And for those watching or listening to this, you might be in a position where everything just looks so far away. You just seem to be stuck. And I promise you one thing: when you start to open a few doors, the walls break down, and all of a sudden, everything's different. And it literally feels like, how did that happen? Like, this only happened. If I take my last 2 years, 2 years is not a long time. In the grand scheme of life, 2 years is nothing. It's nothing. But in the last 2 years, I've created a podcast show. I've become an author. I've built a 6-figure business that's profitable. The contacts. I mean, my network is just completely. Before 2 years ago, yes, I had a successful company, but I wasn't impacting anyone. I was making money, but I wasn't able to impact anyone. And for me, that was like that missing piece of my pie. Is I really wanted to make an impact in this world. I really wanted to help other people. And now I'm able to do that. But it's literally, it flies by. Like, you just start knocking doors down and then boom, you're there.
Awesome, man. I think a lot of people can take some inspiration from that. And here's the thing about the leverage advantage. We really want to show people that there's a smarter way to run your business, right? And so, what's one big tip or advice for the listeners when it comes to creating leverage in their business?
So I'm going to say this, and it's going to be, some people are going to hate this. Some people are going to love it. I'm talking to the lovers, not the haters. I don't care about the haters. Haters, you can go bury yourself. I'm talking to you lovers out there. There is no one tip. I don't believe in the one tip thing. Okay? And I'll tell you something. The reason I wrote my book was because I am a self-help addict. I've been addicted to self-help since I can remember, right? I'm that guy that goes into Barnes and Nobles, right? Or whatever bookstore that you go into, and I just get lost in there. You know what I'm saying? I go to the self-help section or the business section, and I just literally start piling up books, and I start looking at the front and the back, and I start flicking through the pages, and I'm like, which one? And you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for that one thing. I'm looking for that one key that's going to open the doors and set me free. And it's complete bullshit. It's complete BS, right? So I grab that book, whatever that book is, right? That one book that speaks to me, and I cradle it like a little baby in my arms. Like, I've just given birth to a baby, and I go and I pay for the book, and I run home, or I go to the beach or wherever it is, and I start taking out my marker pen, my yellow marker pen, and I start marking the pages. And by the end of the book, you've got the whole book is bloody yellow. The whole book's yellow, right? And every page I'm going, wow, that's amazing. That's going to change my life. Yes, that's incredible. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, this is it. And then I get to that last page of the book, and guess what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. I just get overwhelmed, and I feel stuck, and oh no, now I've got to go and do something about it. And of course I didn't. And then the cycle begins again, and you get caught up in that vicious self-help cycle. When someone asks me, what's the one key? I say there isn't a one key. Doesn't exist.
Cool. And so here's the thing. I relate with that. We've been in the personal development industry for such a long time, and you know what? Most people Most people that go to seminars, most people that buy books, most people don't get the result, right? So what advice would you give to somebody who's in that cycle? How would they break it?
First of all, buy my book. Obviously, I'm going to say that. But no, I'll give you a few things that I talk about in my book. The key, one of the things is, and I'm not going to say the key because I just said there is no key, right? There's a lot of different things that you need to do. But one of the most impactful things that worked for me was I flipped things around. What do I mean by that? Most people think that they've got to create a mindset. They've got to have a mindset change. Some people think that they've got to feel like it. They've got to be burning up inside. But I don't think that's true for me. For me, I need to just take the action and then the feelings will follow. So for example, I might wake up and I might think, I don't want to go to the gym. And I might not feel like going to the gym. My body feels too tired to go to the gym. So I look at my thoughts and feelings like little children. Right? I have 4 little children. And when my children say to me, Daddy, I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to brush my teeth. I don't want to go to school. Do you know what I do? I say, I know you don't want to, and I know you don't feel like it, but you're going to. And I take them by the hand and I gently take them into their bed and I tuck them in. Good boy, good girl, right? My thoughts and feelings are the same. They're little children. And if I just say to them, I know you think that and I know you feel that, but we're going to do it anyway. And I get in my car and I drive to the gym and I get on that treadmill and I start running. And guess what happens? My thoughts and feelings change. Suddenly, I start thinking, wow, this is good. I'm so happy I did this. Wow, I feel amazing. I feel pumped. I'm so glad that I'm here, right? And you leave that gym feeling like $1,000,000. But you have to take the action first, not the other way around. Don't let your thoughts and feelings control you. You have to be in control. And the way that you control them isn't by fighting with them. You don't fight with your children. You don't beat them up. You don't smash them. Or I'm going to crush my fear. Don't crush your fear. That's not nice. Fear's your friend. Take him by the hand and just keep walking. Does that make sense?
Excellent, man. Excellent. I think that's really, really helpful to be able to visualize, your emotions in that manner, right? Well, you mentioned your book. Tell me a little bit about that.
So the book is called The Self-Help Addict. Wow, I've been wanting to write this book literally for 10 years, and I kept pushing it off. That's the irony. The irony is I am the self-help addict, right? Writing the book was for myself in a way, because I wanted to really just talk out my journey. And I kept pushing it off and pushing off. I was procrastinating. I was scared what people will think of me, right? I was trying to be a perfectionist. I was trying to perfect everything. And so as I'm writing this book, I'm talking about procrastination. I'm talking about perfectionism. I'm talking about making fears your friend. I start talking about all these things, and I said to myself one day, I said, Daniel, publish the bloody book. Like, you're the guy telling everyone, take action, you take the action. And so one of the things I discovered was that I can't trust myself. As addicts, you can't trust yourself to do things, right? So the best way to get around that is to make yourself accountable to other people. So one of the things that I did was I remember this was about a year ago, and I had written about half the book. And I was tucking my 9-year-old son into bed. And I said to him, I said, Elisha, for your 10th birthday, I have a very big surprise for you. And he said, what's that? And I said, you're going to get the first copy of my book. And his eyes lit up. His face literally lit up. He said, really? I said, yes. And I'm also going to write the book for you. And he was jumping and dancing. He's like, wow, I'm so happy. I'm so excited. Are you really going to give it to me for my birthday? I said, yes, I promise you. Now, I don't know about you, but if you make a promise to your 9-year-old son, you want to keep it, especially for his birthday. The last thing you want to do for his 10th birthday is say, sorry, son, I don't have the book. Right? So I really put myself in a corner. I made myself accountable. I gave myself an extra bit of motivation to just get it out there. The other thing that I did to keep myself accountable is I publicized it, right? So I went out on Facebook and LinkedIn and my podcast show, and I kept talking about how I'm publishing the book. January 16th, I'm publishing the book. January 16th, 2018, that is the book launch day. And I just kept saying it and kept telling people. And here we are, it's come to the time and the book's out. It's available. It's on Amazon. I'm telling you, when I saw the book printed, it was like, I cannot describe the feeling of when you've created something and you've wanted to create it so badly and you've put it off for so long, and then you finally have it, you finally attain it. It is the greatest feeling. It really is.
That's fantastic, man. Is that your son's birthday, the 16th of January?
16th of January, my son's 10th birthday. And yeah, it's like... I'm telling you, the day when I give him that book, it is going to be one of the most memorable moments of my life and his.
That's amazing, man. Here's a question for you. We've been through so much in business, and it's been such a long journey. If you could go back in time 10 years, what would you tell your old self?
Don't care so much what people think of you. That is one of the best pieces of advice that I can give my younger self. It's not, what people think of you has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. They're just reflecting what they see in themselves. When they look at you, they're literally just reflecting what they see in themselves. Everybody is interested in themselves. They don't really care about you. Whatever you do, if people criticize you or even if they praise you, it's only because they see something in them. Either that they want it, or they aspire to it, they don't like that thing. Whatever it is, they're just they're mirroring themselves. And so they have nothing to do with you. Don't try to be like everybody else. Just be yourself. And I talk about that in my book. I talk about not idolizing people, because that's another thing that self-help addicts tend to do. If we look out at Tony Robbins and we go, whoa, like, oh my God, Tony Robbins looked at me. He looked at me. Oh my God, that's Gary Vaynerchuk. He signed my book. I mean, I'm never gonna wash my hands. He shook my hand. Come on. Come on, man. These guys are just regular human beings. They have the same crap that you have. They get into fights with their spouses. They have issues with their kids. They have doubts and fears. And the difference between you and Tony Robbins, you want to hear the difference?
Sure, tell me, man.
The difference between you and Tony Robbins, if you're at a Tony Robbins event and you're looking at him on stage and you're thinking, wow, look at Tony Robbins, amazing. The only difference is that you bought the ticket and he got on stage. That is the only difference. You bought the ticket, he got on stage. He's the creator, you're the consumer. Now, ask yourself, why am I not the creator? Why am I not the one standing on stage and Tony Robbins buys the ticket? Seriously, there's no reason why not. Everyone has their unique power. Everyone has something in them that they can impact others with. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be like Tony Robbins or Gary Vaynerchuk. You just have to be like you. And you have a following out there that wants you. There are people out there right now who will resonate with your story. They will resonate with your message. And I'm telling you one thing, every moment that you are not producing, you're being selfish, because you could be giving to those people and you're not. And that to me is a disaster.
Awesome. Let's do some quick fire questions. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. Tell me what comes straight up to your mind. It's not a lot. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I ever received. I mean, I pretty much mentioned it before, which is don't worry about what everyone thinks of you. I think that is the best advice I've got.
Awesome. I mean, that's what you would tell your former self. That's
Yeah.
the best advice you've ever received. I'll take it. Why don't you share with me one of your personal habits that you strongly believe contributes to your success?
My habit is basically taking action as much as I can, not overthinking and overanalyzing things, and just doing them and learning from my mistakes as I go along.
Excellent. Here's a question I think I have the answer to, but I'll ask you anyway. What book would you recommend as a must read?
Called The Self-Help Addict.
All right, man. Hey, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you spending the time with us. Now, if people are interested in finding more about you, how can you be reached? Where should they go?
Okay, so head over to Amazon and type in The Self-Help Addict into Amazon and you'll find me there. You'll find the book. You've got a Kindle edition and a print edition. And I'd love to hear from you guys. I want your feedback. I want you to come back to me, send me an email, and just let me know what action did you take. Because, I don't want people reading my book and saying, oh, it was so inspiring. Like, that's great. There's lots of inspiration out there. And the problem is there's so much inspiration that we overdose on it. We overdose on inspiration. We overdose on information. What I really want is I want people to read the book and say, that's it. I'm going to now take action on this. And so you can reach me there. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys.
Cheers, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll get to talk more, and all the best for your book launch, man.
Thank you so much, Fazil. I really appreciate you've had me on the show.
Hey there, thanks so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, check out the relevant video here. And don't forget to subscribe to us for more marketing tips, techniques, strategies that are working for us, or just more behind the scenes fun. See ya.